Okay, again, you're begging a question that that animals or living organisms need to survive as opposed to not survive.
No.
No, I'm not. No, I'm demonstrating. I'm demonstrating that you can breed morality into an animal.
Hang on, Cameron, please. There's no question begging here. There are two possibilities. Either the species has survival as a goal, or it does not. If it does not, then it doesn't matter.
Nothing.
If it does, you better let me finish, or I swear I'm going to hang up on your ass.
I don't care.
Me neither. The other option.
See, if you don't care if you survive.
Yeah, if you don't care if you survive, piss off. The other option is that survival does matter, and therefore it becomes a basis. However, I'm just going to go ahead and preemptively jump to what you wanted to get to, which is that there must be some divine author of a moral code. Well, first of all, there is no universal moral code. Second of all, let's take a look at that situation. And the Euthyphro dilemma is particularly useful for this. Is something moral because God says so, or does God say so because it's moral? If the first one is true, something becomes moral because God said so, that's divine command. That is morality by fiat. And all you've done is shifted the supposed arbitrary, in your verbiage, decision about what's right and wrong from us to this authority, which is, by the way, what we do when we shift from the individual to society. But you're shifting it to some nebulous God who curiously happens to agree with you. But all you've done is taken what would have been arbitrary and shift the arbitrary nature up to something else. There is no absolute morality in divine command theory. There is no absolute morality. It is just one step removed from our subjective assessment. If the opposite is true, that God says something because it's moral, then there is some moral absolute standard, but God is now irrelevant. Your divine author supposedly is not the author, he's the messenger boy, which means that we should be able to determine these standards without his guidance. Now, in one case, you don't have moral absolutes, and in the case where you do, your God, supposed author, is not the author and is irrelevant. When we go around to make assessments, by the way, how did you come to the conclusion that God is the good one? I ask that. Obviously, you're not still on the line, and there's no reason to call back because you don't get through again today, guaranteed. How did you make that assessment? Well, you could say, and I'm sure you would, as most apologists do, that God has written a moral code in your heart that lets you know what is good, so you were able to recognize good. But you're talking about a super being. And if I'm a super being who determines what's right and wrong and I stick it in your heart, then you're going to think that I'm whatever I tell you to think that I am. In actuality, you have used your own moral standards to assess the claims within the religion to determine which claims are consistent with your understanding of morality and said, that's the good one. You are exercising your morality the same way everybody else is. Own up to it. Take a little credit for it. You know why you don't? Because I don't think you exercise it to the same extent that other people do. I think you buy into cheap arguments from authority, like the ones you tried to spew here. I think you buy into fallacies, and by the way, if you go around saying, that's question begging, it's question begging, when it's not, you look like a tool. The argument that Tracy was making had nothing to do with saying, ooh, here's the ultimate standard, it's biological. It was very simple, and she explained it. There's two possibilities. Either survival is something you're looking for, or survival is not something you're looking for. And if it's not, that situation becomes irrelevant. Sorry. You can hit on him some more now that he's gone.
Well, it's just, it reminded me of something I saw earlier on a program that I can't even bring myself to watch because it just disturbs me too much, and that's 18 and Counting.
Oh.
And I've tried twice to watch it, and I can't do 5 minutes. I really can't do 5 minutes. And on the last one, what pulled my trigger on the remote was, I try to watch it because I want to see what they're doing with these kids. But I can't even watch it long enough to, I can't take it. The last one I saw, they had, I guess the 18th one was being added. They collect children, and it's like a wacky religious family, I'm going to say. They're not like just even your standard, what you would think of as your Christian next door. This is like the mother talks and you see the swirling stars. And she has, you know, they had 17 kids, and some are adopted and some are theirs, I think, and they were getting a new one. And so they wanted an 18th, and they were getting an 18th, and the little boy was asking at some point, why are all the cameras here, and what are they, you know, recording everything with the new baby? And the mother, he says, my mom told me that the cameras are all here because, you know, God has blessed us with all these children, and people want to see because we're so blessed by God. And I'm like, no, people are watching because you're freaks with, like, you're collecting children, and, you know, that's fine that if you're treating them nicely, but frankly, it's a sideshow what you're producing. And in addition to that, you're telling this child, you're telling the child that the efforts that you put in to get pregnant and have however many of these kids you had, and the effort that you put into, I mean, you know, children don't just show up at your door, generally. And you're telling him that this is God who did it, but it's not God who did it, it's the parents that did it. These people went out, took steps, and there's a cause and effect chain that begins with, we're going to collect these kids, and we're going to, you know, even let's say that it's a benevolent, you know, I want to give them a good home, they are disadvantaged, whatever. But you start collecting the children, and you take steps to do that, and you do it, and then you tell the child, God did this. It's not true. And with the morality issue, what I'm seeing is social animals, which can be, you can take animals that aren't social, breed them to be more social, and they start having interaction. And when animals desire to interact with one another, there must be rules. Now, as we talked about with the collar, the rules can vary so long as the goals of the society are met. Sometimes those rules are extremely harsh, like when you hear Sharia law. And sometimes the rules are extremely lenient. You think of Amsterdam and maybe Sweden or somewhere. But the fact is, there are many ways to get to those goals, and many things that a society will call moral. And some of those things are atrocities to another society. Yeah. So, you know, one culture will say, we're going to go and raid the other village, and we're going to just machete everyone to death, and that's how it's done. And we would say, oh my God, that's hideous, you know? But this is something that you can see an animal move toward when you breed it. And the fact that you have aberrations, which are, you know, people are sometimes suicidal, that is not the standard. And the standard for a social animal is that it's going to want to be in a unit with other animals that help it survive, because it is less able to survive on its own than an animal that is not social.
The benefits of being a social animal contribute to your assessment of what's moral. All of a sudden, you can be less selfish.
Right.
And there's a good reason to not be as selfish, because supporting the group provides benefits. The longer your view is, the better you can set goals. This is one of the crowning achievements, I guess, of having a brain that